What do the Puritans, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and Billy Carson and other New Age gurus like him all have in common? Well, they either believe or believed that Christmas is rooted in pagan tradition. So is it? This is The Fourfold Disciple, a podcast from Emmett Ministries, where we aim to connect theology, apologetics, and cultural engagement for your growth as a disciple becoming a discipler of others. Where does the idea come from that Christmas is rooted in pagan tradition? And where did the Puritans get that idea? Why do New Age gurus promote that idea? Or why do Jehovah's Witnesses promote that idea? You kind of see this everywhere. And I want to say this first about the Puritans. And not all of them believed this, but a vast majority of them did. And they rejected the Christmas date because they did believe that it was associated with other Greek pagan holidays that were happening at that time in the 2nd century and 3rd century and so on. And then they also wanted to remove themselves as far away from Roman Catholic tradition as they could. And they felt like this was maybe a thing that they could afford to do that. And so they sought to abandon Roman Catholic tradition as well when it came to celebrating Christmas. And now they didn't come up with a great alternative date. And so we just know that they abandoned celebrating Christmas while saying that all of life is about celebrating the incarnation of the Son of God. Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists take these things to the extreme, not celebrating any type of holiday because all of them are rooted in pagan and evil traditions. Spiritualists argue that Christianity did this to make the Christian faith more palatable to those around them. Well, we'll just add Christmas into this, and they're already celebrating, and so when they just come in, it'll be like they're celebrating Christmas. And so that's kind of a bad understanding of history, but it's what they've been promoting for many years now. And that's even seeped into the church where many people say, oh, well, December 25th isn't really when Jesus was born. That was just a date that was added later. And I think that as Christians, we need to take this very seriously. We're talking about the incarnation of the Son of God. And so a question that is worth asking before maybe defending December 25th is this: is there any truth to their claims? The first type of claim is that Christmas was this later addition to the already celebrated pagan festivals like Sol Invictus or Saturnalia, and that these two pagan festivals happened alongside winter solstice, and the Christians just came in and said, well, we'll have a winter solstice celebration of the incarnation, and that's just kind of what happened, and that then from there everything flowed out. The second type of claim that I want to maybe investigate a little bit is that the use of Christmas trees is deeply rooted in pagan tradition. And so let's look at the first one really quick. And this is to do with the Sol Invictus feast or other winter solstice festivals. Well, there definitely were these festivals that happened during the winter solstice. Some of the earliest writings or earliest calendars don't put this on December 25th at all. And we have other dates that fit the winter solstice or the Sol Invictus festivals that would take place. August 8th, 9th, 28th, and December 11th were all festivals for the Sol Invictus festival. It wasn't solely a winter solstice festival. That's significant because many claim that this is the one that the Christians just kind of added Christmas to. None of these were calling for none of these align with the celebration of Christ's incarnation as December 25th. Now, Saturnalia was also never on December 25th. That's another significant winter solstice feast or festival in antiquity. Some dating could place it ending on the 24th, but that kind of even varies. What we know about it is most likely it started on December 17th and lasted 3 days, disconnecting it from the December 25th date that we celebrate Christmas on and that the early Christians did. So there wasn't pagan festivals that were happening on December 25th that the Christians added the incarnation to or the birth of Jesus to. But what about Christmas trees? Those were used in pagan festivals, right? The use of trees. And from what I've seen, there's no reason to believe that any pagan or Greek group was using pine trees as a part of their celebration. Now, oak trees were definitely used. That's seen, but there's no example of pine trees being used at any point in time. And so we have those two. That is a pretty significant thing. So Christmas trees aren't pagan. And it also means that the December 25th date isn't rooted in pagan tradition. But many people have believed this. So what do we know about the December 25th date? Why did they choose that? Why that date? If they just arbitrarily chose it, why? Well, I don't think they arbitrarily chose it. I think this date comes from a study of the scriptures, a study of the history, and a celebration that was meant to be impacted across the universal church. So let's look at some of the reasoning for that. In the 3rd century, kind of in the middle of the beginning of the 3rd century, the end of the 2nd century, we have some writings from Sextus Julius Africanus. And he's writing this chronological story of the world, starting in Genesis up to his current moment. And the thing that he does is he dates Jesus's conceived date, his conception date within the Virgin Mary as March 25th. It's very simple how he ends up with a December 25th. He just adds 9 months to the conception date, and you end up with December 25th. And he says, this is the date that Jesus was born. And it's interesting because that means at that point in time, there's already a question concerning the December 25th date. We don't know if it was celebrated. We don't necessarily know what that looked like. But it's believed that since he's already speaking into it and speaking about it, that the December 25th date has been contested and is in some way being celebrated as the Incarnation Day. And he defends it. He says Jesus was conceived on March 25th, and he was born on December 25th. Then we have this further with a contemporary, Hippolytus of Rome. He's writing that same era, and he dated Christmas 8 days before the calends of January, which puts it at December 25th or 24th, depending on the way the calendar functioned. And that's significant. So we have another source in the early Christian era, the 2nd and 3rd century, identifying Christmas, the Incarnation Day, as December 25th. And then we have Tertullian, who's writing around that area as well, and he dates it as December 25th, and he comes up with that based on Jesus being crucified on March 25th. That means that his birth would have been on December 25th. And he does some Old Testament connections where you see individuals die on the day they are born or die on the day they were conceived. And he does some things there, and he says Jesus was born on March 25th. That was the day Jesus was conceived, was March 25th. He died on his conception day, which means he was born on December 25th. And now that one's the ones where you go, I don't know how you end up there. I don't know how you make those types of conclusions about death and conception dates and all those things. But the point being, ultimately, is that Christians in the 2nd and 3rd century really did believe that Christmas, or the Incarnation Day, was on December 25th. And by Augustine's time in the 3rd and 4th century, the end of the 3rd century into the 4th century, it seems that it was common belief in the church that Jesus was born on December 25th, that they didn't hold to any position other than that. And that became the universal belief amongst Christians, not just in the past, but even today. It seems that overall the data from the early Christians is that December 25th was the day that Christians identified, as we do now, as Christmas. That was the day that God became man, as he was born to the Virgin Mary, to Joseph in a manger in the middle of Bethlehem. So what does all this mean for us as Christians? And there's a historical basis for Christmas being celebrated on December 25th. Why is that relevant for you today? Well, first and foremost, it means that when we celebrate Christmas, we're not just doing so as Westerners in the 21st century, but we're celebrating Christmas in the lineage of Christian history. Our brothers and sisters before us believed that December 25th was the day that Christ was born. That means that when we celebrate it, we're not just celebrating it with our families in this moment, but we're celebrating it with all of God's people throughout the history of the church. And that's a significant thing. The second reason it matters is because Christians understand that Christmas isn't just about getting presents under a Christmas tree, but that December 25th is about so much more than getting everything you wanted on your Christmas list, or maybe even being disappointed because you didn't get what you wanted on your Christmas list. But we understand that Christmas, December 25th, isn't about receiving what you wanted off of Amazon, but it's about celebrating and looking back at what has happened. First, God became man. Second, God became man, and that incarnate man lived a perfect life, died a death that he did not deserve, was raised from the grave, and ascended into heaven. And third, we believe that he will come back. Jesus' first coming and his life that he lived so that sinners could be reconciled wasn't simply ending at his ascension, but Jesus' first coming ends with his second coming. Jesus is coming back. And when he does, he's not coming as a gift to be received by the world, to be turned over, to die on a cross, but he is coming back to judge the living and the dead. So this Christmas, would you remember that Jesus has come and he is coming back. And the good news that he brought is the good news that we should live every day for, giving him all of the glory. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, and remember that Christmas is not pagan. For more resources, visit emmettministries.org and make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe on YouTube for more weekly content from Emmett Ministries.